Hey, welcome back. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day. Man, this has got to be the best President's Day we've had in the last 4 years. What do you think, Apollo? We are joined today by Joe Biggs. If you don't know who he is, you're about to find out. And he is one of the many who was held as a political prisoner. Only Joe's got a little bit different story than some of the J6ers. He had his sentence commuted, not pardoned. So we're gonna walk the problem with him, try to work this problem with him. So we'll be right back.
Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
All right, so welcome back. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Joe, and then I'm just going to bring him in. He served the United States Army, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. He did work for several conservative media organizations, including InfoWars and Censored TV. He was also a leader for the Proud Boys, who organized and promoted the End Domestic Terrorism rally, and was found jointly culpable for an over $1 million judgment for trespassing and vandalism at the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in 2023. He was found guilty on 6 criminal counts, including seditious conspiracy, and sentenced to 17 years in federal prison. He did serve almost a year and a half before his sentence was commuted by President Trump on January 20th, 2025. I'm not sure who made that decision to only commute it, but I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time. I want to welcome to the show. Joe, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I actually did 4 years in prison. It was just, I was in prison pre-trial, and then we were pre-trial for about a few years. And then we had our trial a little over, I don't even know. It's been so long. But yeah, it was 4 years in prison, 2 years in solitary confinement, and now I'm out.
Well, the blessing is that you're out. But that's not the end of the road. I mean, Joe, you lost your ability to get VA benefits. You served your country honorably. You were not standing up for anything that was out of the ordinary. For over 70% of the country believe that the elections were stolen, believe that we were headed down the wrong road. So how do you square that part of this, the getting out part? I just want to just tell me how you feel about that.
It's bittersweet, it's been a struggle. There's been a lot to deal with, and I've needed to go to the VA to get seen to, try to help get sleep. I spent 4 years sleeping on a yoga mat about a half-inch thick. So now that I'm in a bed, it's difficult. I get maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then, that wears on you. It's been about a month now, and it just eats away at you, and I tried to go into the VA just to see if they would help me, knowing that my benefits were taken, just hoping they wouldn't turn me away. And they told me that while I was locked up, they court-martialed me for subversive acts against the United States and said that I had to leave. So, I was kind of shocked because I spent 4 years in combat, almost 10 years in. I was medically retired from my injuries in combat, multiple Purple Hearts. My buddies died. I almost died numerous times. And to have my country and the VA turn on me is kind of very upsetting.
So they court-martialed you while you were locked up?
Yeah, while I was in solitary confinement. I didn't know this until I went to the VA last week. And when they put in, this guy didn't know who I was. There was a new VA in Daytona Beach. And I gave him my social security number, said I needed to register at this new location. He put in my social, my date of birth, and he said, "Oh my God, I've never seen this before." And I go, "What?" He said, "You can't be here. It says you were court-martialed for subversive acts against the United States, and that you have to leave." And the police came and asked me to go.
Okay, how is that even possible though? Because you would have to be giving, if you get a court martial, you would have to be given a trial date. You would still have to go through the process of adjudication for yourself, and so that never happened. But you still were put on this list to be.
They refused me the right to go to anything.
Okay,
I
Joe.
was never allowed.
So you never. So they had a trial.
Apparently so. That's what it says in the system. They said they had one without me. I never even knew about it.
But
So they didn't tell me.
But there's a legal requirement, there's a duty to inform in the military.
Well, when Biden was president, there is no law, there is no duty, there is no integrity. That is do as you will, and it doesn't matter. Screw everyone else. So I am a direct example of that.
Okay, so have you had any future conversations with the VA? Has a lawyer tried to contact them? Has anybody gotten in the middle of this for you?
I don't know how to really. I don't know who to reach out to. I've been trying. I'm trying to help my other co-defendant, Zachary Rill. He's one of the PB leaders out of Philly, and we're both just struggling, trying to figure out what we can do, trying to get help, talking to as many people as we can. Like I came down to West Palm Beach today for President's Day. We were outside Trump International. Trump came by, gave me this hat. And I talked to Secret Service and let them go, hey, this is my issue. Can you at least bring it up to the president? And they just kind of looked at me and go, there's nothing we can do for you, man. Sorry. So I'm trying, and I'm going to go to DC this week to go to CPAC and see if I can meet the right person that can help and get me in front of someone who's willing to listen and care. But it's not been easy, but I'm not going to give up.
It seems odd to me. I mean, it doesn't seem impossible based on the fact that Biden did whatever he wanted to. But it seems, we actually pushed it up our chains as well to see if we can get as many people to know about your situation and Stuart Rhodes' situation as possible. What seems odd to me in this entire thing is that two pretty well-known guys in the movement that have been standing up for the rights of Americans and there were several others, had your sentences commuted, but not pardoned. Did anybody along the way tell you why? Like, why were you not pardoned?
There's a few people out there that have a theory that because our trials were so corrupt and it was so egregious and the things that they did to us were so messed up that when you get a pardon, your case is closed, right? So they can't look into it anymore. It's over. Case closed, door shut. That's it. So with the commutation, my case is still wide open. I'm still an open book with the FBI as far as they're concerned. I still am spied on by the government through the FISA courts, NSA, Interpol, all of that. Always watched. So with the case still being open, from what some people are saying is they believe that, Pam Bondi and Trump and, Pete Hegseth and these other guys will try to take a deeper look into it. And I'm hoping that's what's going on. And I'm hoping they're setting us up for a way to have our record expunged and the entire case dropped because it was brought against us unjustly. I actually got to speak to Steve Friend, the former FBI, agent turned whistleblower, and Kyle Seraphin, and they both believe that, what happened to me was wrong. So I'm just hoping that sorry, I don't know, did it just turn? There it goes. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I can get in front of the right person and let them understand what's going on and how important it is to my family and myself, because it doesn't make sense to me how I could serve my country honorably, get a retirement card that says no expiration date. I'm medically retired. I have a blue card, which means it's forever. But then I can be charged with something. And just the mere charge of seditious conspiracy before there was ever a conviction, I lost everything right there. And without that money, I couldn't pay for property taxes. So I lost my home. I lost my truck. My mother was being extorted by the VA and the IRS. They charged her thousands upon thousands of dollars while I was gone. I didn't know about this until I got home. I've never owed more than $1,000 to the IRS, but they were charging her $17,000 a year. The VA was charging her, like, I think it's $45,000, $50,000.
Why? Okay.
It doesn't make sense either. But these people, I think they were so their hubris was just so out of control that they thought that since they'd already stolen the election once, that there was no way Trump was going to get in again, and they could just continue to screw us over. And now that Trump is in there, hopefully things change and wrongs are made right. So,
All right, so let's take everyone back to your trial. You were charged with seditious conspiracy and 5 other charges related to being on the premises in Washington, D.C. on January 6th.
yes. Well, so originally I was charged with trespassing, parading, picketing, all misdemeanors. And the AUSA attorney told my attorney that there will be no felonies brought against me. So I turned myself in. I contacted the FBI. I saw that my face was on TV, and I didn't want them kicking in the door and coming after, coming into my house with my daughter there. My daughter's 3 years old, and I don't need her having that kind of experience. So I called them and I said, look, I just want to do a peaceful thing. I'll go. You guys arraign me. This is going to be easy. I'll come home and it's over. But then I get all the way down to the courthouse in Orlando, and the AUSA lawyer goes, oh, by the way, we're going to give you obstruction of an official proceeding. That's 20 years, a felony. And that's when everything changed, and everything just got really bad. And we had multiple superseding indictments. They just kept adding on charges. And it got to a point where they just took all the misdemeanors away and just started stacking felonies up.
All right, did you feel and you had your trial in D.C., so they obviously didn't, there was no bail, no even thought of bail. They just came and said, okay, we're locking you up.
Well, no. So from the get-go, when I turned myself in, I was put on an ankle monitor. Then we had a hearing on detention. The Judge Kelly, saw the initial video and goes, I don't see anything wrong with this video at all. And it's me touching a bike rack fence, my hand coming off of it, and then 5 minutes later, the bike rack goes down. He tells the prosecutors, Judge Kelly does, that they're crazy and he sees nothing there. The very next week, we have another hearing. They want to do another detention hearing to put me in jail. And all of a sudden, the judge comes out, Judge Kelly, and goes, this was an act of terrorism. You're a horrible person, and you deserve to go to jail. So you're coming off home confinement, and you're going to prison. And that happened a couple days before my daughter's 4th birthday.
But hold on a second. So they arraigned you?
Yes.
They put you on the ankle monitor. And then they came back after they put you on the ankle monitor and said, okay, now we're going to take away your freedom until trial. What were the circumstances? Like, what, did you do something wrong? Did you rob a bank? Maybe, knock over?
Nope. I sat at home. I sat at home every day. The U.S. Probation Office pretrial office out of Washington, D.C. Their exact words were that I was super compliant. The agent that was working my case said I was one of the best, people he'd ever had under him. Not causing anything, staying at home, being good, taking care of his family, just doing whatever. And they actually went to battle saying, I don't think you should go to jail for me. And the judge didn't care because something happened. Someone got to him because how is it that one day, one video, he says the prosecution is ridiculous. He can't believe that they're bringing this up. He doesn't see anything wrong. And then the very next hearing, the same video is brought again. And all of a sudden he goes, you're a terrorist. You're a piece of crap. You're going to jail.
A lot of that has to do with, I think, the apparatus itself. The judiciary is rotted at the core. They say that they're good judges. All they have to do is just find something on that judge and or just a part of the fraternity. We want him locked up. We want him put away. So how long between the time that you first went in and the time that they got the detention, how long were you at home for?
Let me see. A few weeks. So, not very long. There were people who had actual violence against police officers who never went to jail. I did nothing. I walked in. What?
They probably worked for the FBI. That's why
but it was just ridiculous. Like, I put my hand on a fence that was a bike rack. It was a prop, not even used for security to stop anybody from getting to the Capitol because it's not there any other time. It's just there for inauguration. And that whole area was just set up for inauguration. That was it. That's never there. So there was nothing that anyone was breaching or breaking. There was a permanent piece of security at the Capitol. These were portable bike racks.
Joe, did you feel, when you walked into the courtroom, so did you start out going to solitary confinement, or were you on solitary confinement after you got there for some time? Did they just put you directly into solitary confinement?
So at first I was in a holding place, like a county jail. And then once I got transported, they wanted me to be closer to DC. They sent me to the Alexandria Adult Detention Center, and there I stayed in the hole. I was there with the Lockerbie bomber, serial killer, 2MS13 hitman, and a serial rapist.
Nobody could see you. Couldn't make phone calls. Couldn't. I mean, just completely shut off from the world.
Yep. And everybody, those guys would be like, "Why are you here?" And I go, "Trespassing." And they would laugh and they wouldn't believe me. And then everybody would hear on the news, on the radio in their room, their little cell, like a crank up radio, that that I was there and that I was there for that. And then I would hear the guys finally go, "Man, that's screwed up, dude. You're here for trespassing. Like, we thought you were joking." And I'm back there with the guy who literally blew a plane up and killed people, and a 2MS13 hitman that were just taking people out, and sniping them and cutting their throats and things like that. And that's who I was with.
Okay, so you're like the big bad trespasser. You went to. I mean, look, I told myself before you came on, like before I had to say a prayer before I came on with you, because I knew I was going to get more and more angry as I talked to you. So you went in, you went to trial. They brought out a jury. Tell me about the jury.
The jury, the main juror that was over, I can't remember the foreman. He was a trans rights activist, and everybody called it out. And the judge said that there was no conflict of interest there. We had multiple BLM activists, no conflict of interest. But anytime we would pick a juror that was, Republican, automatically threw them out. Wouldn't let us have anybody like that. The entire jury was there because they knew they would hate us. I don't know how many times I would look over to Ethan Ordine or Enrique Tarry and go, "Are we ever going to talk about January 6th?" Because all they did was show random videos of street fights that had none of us in the videos. We weren't even there. And they used that to antagonize and inflame the jurors to hate us. The times that we did talk about January 6th, it was stupid. There was nothing there. There was nothing to talk about because nothing happened there with us.
Joe,
This is why the federal courts don't allow you to televise it, because you would see how much of a sham it is. The amount of money we wasted at the time, it was the largest trial in DC history. It was the largest amount of discovery and the largest investigation in American history. Just our trial, the Seditious Five. And all we did, like after the first week you're kind of scared. You're like, "Man, what's going to happen?" And then you realize you're just going to get screwed. So we were in there just like completely just laughing and mocking the FBI and the prosecution, and going like, "You guys are a joke. Like, this is insane. Why are we wasting our money, our time on this?" Because you've brought no evidence. You brought out challenge coins. You brought out Proud Boy flags. You brought out Proud Boy t-shirts. But you never once brought out any evidence of any wrongdoing, any violence, any property destruction, any theft, nothing.
Joe, what did they convict you on then? Like, what evidence did they convict you on doing something wrong? Touching the...
They said the video that originally everyone said that saw, even the reporters, the left-wing reporters, the New York Times, Judge Kelly's original, opinion of this video. My hand touches a video. Me and Ethan Ordine are sitting at a bike rack, and our hand touches a fence. And then some other people come in and start shaking it and break it down. And they doctor the video and make it seem like it happens right there in front of us. But actually, it happens in front of Ray Epps. And then the screen glitches green, and then it clears up right when the fence goes down in front of us, because it was like a domino effect moving all the way down. So I think it was like 45 yards to my right is where the fence initially goes down, right in front of Ray Epps. And then it goes green and glitches like this, and you're going like, "What is going on?" And then it clears up, and then you see the fence go down right where they show this edited version of our hands touching. So it looks like our hand comes off, and then the fence goes down. And it was such edited BS. And they wouldn't even let us actually show the undoctored version. They go, "No, there's a glitch right there." Like, no, there's not, because we've seen the actual version. You gave us a discovery dump. And it shows that it does not go down in front of us. It goes down in front of Ray Epps.
So have you looked at so there's no evidence. They found you guilty of these crimes, and there's no evidence.
There's not a single thing that anyone could look at with any amount of honesty in them and go, "Those guys should go to jail. Those guys deserve to be in prison for 17, 22 years." I've had multiple FBI agents come out and reach out to me and go, "You should have not been charged. We tried to stop that from happening." And DC overrode us, fired us, and brought in new agents who were yes men to get it done. And they found whatever they could to get us charged. Their goal, that he said, was to get us convicted with anything they could find, the smallest thing, just to get us in front of a judge. Because once they got us in front of a judge, they knew they'd be able to screw us and add on and supersede and turn us into terrorists.
But Joe, it didn't even sound like you need. I mean, they didn't even need any evidence. They could have put a walrus's dildo up on the screen, and you probably would have been convicted of grabbing it.
Of course, but they still have to sell it to their followers too. They need to make a bad guy out of us. They need to have some kind of boogeyman.
And that's the. But your peers, these people were your peers. A trans, what do you call it? A he bitch on one side, a bunch of weirdos, and that's your peers. BLM wackos and a transgender he bitch.
Yeah, there was a lady that said, "I hope you guys are buried under the jail." And Judge Kelly goes, "You know what? I think she's good for this trial." And it's like, what? There's no bias there? No, I don't see a bias at all. I think she's going to be honest. I think she's going to say exactly what I want her to say.
Who was your attorney?
Well, at first it was a guy I don't want to name, but then I got lucky and had Norm Pattis. Norm Pattis is a great guy. Smart dude, constitutional guy, very genius. Like, he gets up there, he's a wordsmith. Like, everyone just stops what they're doing and listens, and they're just mind blown by his brain. But still, having someone that smart and that intelligent and knowing the law better than the judge and the prosecution and the FBI there, it still didn't matter because it was all rigged. It was all a setup. We were there to take the fall. We were there to look bad so Trump would look bad, and therefore they could stop him from ever winning again. And, Trump never had to see prison, but we did. And they put us in prison to get to him. And it's kind of screwed up that now we don't have a life.
Joe, I have so many questions, and I'm one of those people that bro, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the country that you served for 10 years betrayed you. I'm sorry that the country that you would be willing to give up everything for betrayed you. I'm sorry that people that literally are just pieces of shit betrayed you.
Yeah, and Nancy Pelosi even admits, that was my fault that day, and it was her fault. They set us up. Originally their plan was to have these fake bombs exposed at the RNC and DNC buildings, but they were instead able to inflame the crowd. They used the fact that Trump told people to go up to the Capitol. They inserted 50 undercover feds. We had binders at the trial handed to us, binders of undercover federal agents. Only a few of them ever came out and talked, and they were the ones who just would lie. They were yes men. But there were many who were sitting there live tweeting that day or live texting the FBI headquarters going, "Cowboys didn't break the fence. They didn't start it. Everybody's walking up. They're just walking along with the crowd. Proud Boys didn't do it. This isn't Joe Biggs. This isn't, Ethan Orty. It's not these guys. It's someone else. There's antagonizers here." And those guys weren't given an opportunity to speak. And instead, they only brought up the ones that they could demonize and make fun of and make it all look like, they were just, they became like supporters of ours or something like that. They demonized their own people, some of them that they could. So, man, it's really it's hard to digest. I've had 4 years and to sit there thinking about stuff, and it's just like nothing makes sense. It's just been like one nightmare after another. They put me in a cell with a guy who was shooting meth every day, and I had to literally bash his head in with a lock because he would try to attack me. And I had one cellie try to take a bite out of my neck because he was on some drug that turns you into a literal zombie. And I had to crack his skull. The entire room's soaked in blood, and it looks like a scene from the movie Carrie. And the police would come in and go like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Dude, just shut the door and go away." And they're like, "Is he alive?" I was like, I hope so, man. But, stop putting me in rooms with these people because they were setting me up. over and over again. I was told this past Thanksgiving by one of the police that when I go to work, because I had to work in one of the slave shops at Unicor on the sew line, I was told that when I went to work, that the black officers were going to come in there and put hard drives of child porn in my room and then get me in trouble for that to make sure that I never got to go home.
What?
I was physically tortured, mentally tortured numerous times. The fact that I have not snapped and lost my mind is beyond me. Without God's help on that one, I don't know. But
Well,
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
2 years of solitary confinement.
Yeah, it's not easy doing it. I'm telling you, when they first put me in there, they go, "This is only going to be for 30 days just to see how you are. We want to make sure that you're going to be okay in general population." And then they go, "Yeah, we're never going to let you out. We just said that just to keep you quiet." And then, it's like one of those things that either makes or breaks you. You learn to deal with it, and you learn to enjoy your own company and you start reading. I read over 1,500 books. I just started learning and thinking and praying and just trying to do anything I could to occupy my mind. Stupid little menial tasks throughout the day. I would just clean my room over and over again, walk back and forth, talk to myself, and try to keep myself as sharp as possible so I wouldn't lose my mind and try to focus on my daughter and focus on getting home and keeping my sanity. And, there were guys I saw come back there in the hole, didn't last 2 weeks before they were thrown into a straitjacket or tried to kill themselves, hang themselves, overdose on drugs, and to think that I lasted 2 years, it's crazy. It's a testament to the human spirit, the American spirit, to not want to give up, so.
All right, so let me ask you a couple questions that I think are important. One, you have a job now? Are you?
No, I can't get a job. No one can hire me. I mean, just the fact that, what if something happens, or what if someone finds out that I'm working at this place? They're going to be like, "Oh, this business right here has a terrorist working for them," and then they would automatically lose their license or whatever like that. So that's just impossible right now. I tried to get a house. The lady goes, "Wait, you're Joe Biggs, the insurrectionist," and says, You're not getting anything," and shut me down and like made calls to other real estate agents and got to where I couldn't do that. So, that's just not a problem with me. That's a problem for Mason Corson, Ethan Nordine, Zachary Rill. We lost everything and we really have no way to take care of ourselves or defend ourselves, to put food on the table.
Joe, what did you do before all this happened? What did you do for employment before?
Well, I was retired Army, so I got money from that. But I was also a journalist. I covered terrorist attacks all over the world. When the Battlefront theater attack happened in Paris, I was there the very next day. I went on raids with the French police in Saint Denis, looking for ISIS. I chased the ISIS perpetrators all the way into Molenbeek, Belgium. I was at every riot that happened from Ferguson, Missouri, all the way up until the ones in Baltimore. I covered everything. I went to all the dangerous places because being in the military, serving in combat, you are used to being around high stressful environments. And for me, those situations are calming. So I did stuff like that. I went into places that people didn't want to go, but they were dangerous. Now I can't really do anything.
I got to believe that given all the stuff that you've done, that someone would hire you as a journalist, or are you doing a podcast? Are you doing anything to just talk about your work?
I don't have a house, and I don't have a way to buy equipment right now. I don't have a way to do anything.
You don't have
all the money that.
Where are
no.
you right now?
Well, right now I'm in West Palm Beach. I'm down here. I just last night I got to see Enrique Tarrio. He's here right across from me right now. Ethan Nordine, my other co-defendant, and this is the first time I've gotten to see my buddies since trial. So I came down here to see my brothers.
And then from where would you go from there? Where would you go from? Like where's home base?
Well, I'm out of Ormond Beach, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, in that area. But I really don't have it either. The two of the other guys here with me, we've been wearing the same clothes for the last few days because we don't have any. Everything was taken. So I've been wearing, sadly, the same things for like 3 days, just like Mason and Ethan and these other guys. So,
all right. So how are you getting? You don't have cash. You don't have.
Well, I mean, I got a little bit. I've had a few people reach out and help me, but you got to be sparing with all that. So I'm not signing up to really do much. But the money that I
We're
have raised
gonna
so far,
support you.
thank you. Yeah, the money that I have raised so far has gone towards lawyer costs. We're also fighting numerous civil lawsuits where we've gone into default because we couldn't defend ourselves because we were in jail. And in prison after COVID, everyone was locked down across the country. All these prisons were just locked everybody down all the time. And when you're locked down, you can't use the phone, you can't communicate, you can't do anything. So I had no way to ever defend myself. So I defaulted on multiple civil suits and though millions of dollars that I'll never be able to pay.
Okay, so now you're still on restricted probation now, like still?
Well, they removed the probation. Finally, somebody got a hold of the probation office in Florida and said that what they were doing is wrong. Like when your sentence is commuted, that means you don't serve any more time, and probation is part of serving your time for your crime. So they fought it for a while, and I was the last one to get it dropped, but I got it dropped finally. But still, though, like if I go somewhere and I sign up for something, like I can't even be a chaperone at my daughter's school. I can't take her to a field trip because I've got like 13 felonies and a terrorism charge. So I can't even take my own daughter to a field trip.
All right, so you're still married? Not married?
No, no.
Okay.
Nope. I've been single for like 8, 9 years.
Wow. Can't have a house. All right, so man, I'm just trying to figure out it just never ends.
Yeah.
How's your daughter
Yeah.
handling all this? I mean, she's
The
8,
first,
9, 8?
she's 7 going on 8. She'll be 8 in April. My mom told me that the first 2 years she slept with a frame photo of me every day. And that was the only way that she would have a dad. When I first got back, thanks, man. When I first got back, I remember the first night I got there, she just held on to me and she goes, God really does answer prayers. And that was the first thing she said to me. And she teared up and started crying. I remember I had to go to the store the next morning to grab some ice and a coffee. And she looked at me and started tearing up and she goes, "Are you going to come back?" And I go, "Yeah." And now anytime I leave, she doesn't think I'm ever going to come back again. She thinks I'm going to be gone forever. So she's definitely, traumatized by this.
And so you're not allowed to go on field trips. You get along well with her mom?
Well, I did, but then I don't know what's going on since I got back. Like she's been acting super weird, so that's a whole other thing. I have no idea what's going on with that. But my mom has been like the primary person watching my daughter since I've been gone. Luckily, my mother had cancer. She beat that. Her husband died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So she was alone, and it's kind of been a blessing in a sense that my daughter's got a grandma that's willing to be there and help and all that in my absence since I've been gone. Um, but yeah.
So how do you, and I know I have you for a limited amount of time. I got like 5,000 questions for you.
Well, I mean, we can always come back again. Like, this ain't a one-time deal. I mean, I'm willing to sit down and talk more and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm going to try to go up to CPAC this week. I've got tickets. I'm going to find out what it's like to try to fly as a terrorist. I'm told to be at the airport at least 4 hours early. So this is going to be interesting. And I will document that to see what that's like. But I'm just trying to do whatever I can to get in front of the right people who are going to be able to help me and my family get back to some kind of normalcy.
Well, we're certainly going to help you do that. Where do you have where people can give you money?
If you go to freejoebigs.com, there's a link to a Give, Send, Go. I'm pretty much caught up on all my legal expenses. So what it says now, I think I've got like a little bit of money in there, but everything I get from here on out is going to go to me and my daughter now and my mother to help us, kind of get squared away and get things going. I know someone just donated like $600 to me from something that they raised out of California, so that's very appreciated, and we're thankful for that. But everything that we get, it's not going to buy like a Tesla or anything like that. It's going to like really get myself in a position to get to work. This is Enrique. He's here right now. This is my brother.
Enrique, what's up, brother? How are you?
What is it? Yeah, freejoebig.com.
Well, I look forward to having him on too. I want to sit and have a conversation with him. I met him January of 2021 with I think it was with Stewart. I don't remember. I was there for 4 days talking about the election fraud. All right, so we're going to support you. I'll figure out a way to get a hold of you. I have your numbers. I'll reach out to you, and we'll talk about how we can get some long-term support for you. I'm just going to tell everyone that's listening, any dollars you were going to spend somewhere else, if you're going to use it in Honor Bound, you're going to use it anywhere else, just drop it on Joe at freedrobigs.com. Just hit the donate button, which is right in the middle. It'll take you over to the Give, Send, Go. Joe, how can people follow you?
You can follow me on X at Real Joe Biggs. And I believe that's the handle for like all social media I have. So at Real Joe Biggs will get you to me on the interwebs everywhere. So,
all right, awesome. All right, Joe, I'm gonna let you go because you got somewhere to go and to be, and I'll have you back on because I do want to break down the part that you don't want to talk about, which is the emotion. You got to get past that because you will snap. I can tell you after 4 years and 21 times the police come into my house with guns, and I live in a house with bulletproof glass, thermal cameras. I have an AR-15 next to the bed. I make sure everywhere I go, I have to carry a gun for different reasons. I mean, obviously, I was the one that broke open most of what happened with Dominion voting systems, but same principle. They do everything they can to slander you and destroy you. And so I want to get to the bottom of that. At some point, you're going to have to publicly just start authentically talking about what effect it had on you, because that's the way I'm going to heal.
Well, I thank you.
All right, brother. We'll have you on again. God bless you.
All right, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Like what is it that Joe? It's not just Joe we're talking about. It's Enrique. It's Stuart Rhodes. It's so many other people. And what was interesting about that conversation with Joe is that he kept talking about his other brothers that went through the same thing. And then he spent the first week of the trial, always pay attention to the words, first week of the trial, just scared as hell. Like, what in the world is going on here? And then after that, it settled in. He knew that they're going to do everything they can to screw you. So we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the craziness. It's only been 4 weeks. It's been a little less than 4 weeks. And here we are having a conversation about what President Trump is doing. Like what is it that is happening right now? How does this relate to how things are happening with the cool kids club? We'll call it the World Economic Forum, the groupies in the European Union, and how they're reacting to not just President Trump, but J.D. Vance and some of the other things that are happening. And it's starting to show its cracks. You're starting to see that the guys that say that are on our side, the Mitch McConnells of the world, call them what you want, but they're lefticals that are trying to act like they're on our side. Look at how they're acting and reacting. And then let's talk about Zelensky. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Do you want to get profits from the world's most productive oil basin? Bloomberg calls the Permian Basin the world's most important growth engine for oil production. Now there's a way for everyday investors to collect monthly checks from an incredible oil hotspot. It's not a stock, and it's not an ETF. Instead, you can actually own royalty rights on over 380,000 acres of prime oil and gas fields. The best part? 95% of all income from this investment gets paid directly to investors like you. You can simply sit back and collect the royalty checks month after month. You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. Visit oilboom2025.com to learn more about the opportunity from the Oxford Club's Chief Income Strategist, Mark Lichtenfeld. That's oilboom2025.com to learn how to start collecting Permian Basin oil royalties today.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot.
It was around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I received an email from PayPal. It showed in this email that there was a debit in my PayPal account that was going to be taken out. I don't remember following the link in the email even. I think I went straight to the PayPal account, and that pending debit was there. And it was for about $1,000, I believe, so it was a lot of money. So I called the phone number on that email. And it kind of, the way this guy was talking, I didn't even question what he was saying. And I've worked with computers for the past 40 years. And he just kept convincing me, and he was a legitimate person that was going to fix my computer, and I had faith in him that he was doing his job. I got in the car and I drove, and I was just thinking, this isn't right. I've given this guy enough money to buy like 2 computers. So I came home and I just thought about it some more, and I called my wife had come home. I was by myself. I had to fix the computer, fix my phone, change my bank accounts, change all of my passwords. I mean, I went through like 2 weeks of going through everything I owned, changing everything that I had because of this guy calling me for those 2 or 3 hours. How did I fall for this? And it was a very traumatic experience. I know I wasn't the only one out there that had fallen for this. Listen to yourself and think about it before you do anything, and don't just trust somebody, even though it's so believable somehow. If you feel comfortable getting a software to help you to find out, who might be, that actually track these scams, do it. I mean, if they feel that's something important to you, do it.
We just heard from Joe Biggs. And Apollo, I don't know how to feel about what I'm hearing. You have videos of, the challenge coins and all sorts of other stuff that have nothing to do with what happened. And yet we're sitting here and we're supposed to believe that he was convicted for now 17 years. There are people that have raped young children that get 5 years. He got 17 years for a seditious conspiracy. The person that ran as a jury foreman for him was a he-bitch. You can say whatever you want. I'm going to call them he-bitches. And let me tell you why I call them he-bitches. Number one, I was on the phone with Jared. There's this guy from Atlanta. And he says, we're going to take back language. And there's this black dude that's just awesome. He's just freaking awesome. And we're talking about how do we combine all these efforts around to bring people that frankly are being fooled into a place where we basically all want the same thing, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. But he's, you know why I call them he-bitches? He goes, because they couldn't make it as a man, so they had to become the bitch.
There it is.
I thought, I'm adopting it. I'm taking it. They have now become he-bitches. They're still dudes. They just couldn't make it, so they had to pretend to be something else. But I listened to Joe, and he's right about a few things. And that's why I said to him, look, you're going to have to work this problem. You're going to have to get it out. You can't just say that the last 4 years that you were able to survive it and you're stronger for it. Because let me just tell you something. When you live through someone that does you wrong for 4 years. So I had a friend they literally, he said he committed a crime when I was younger. He didn't commit a crime. At least not that crime. I should probably preface it with karma probably did catch up to him on other stuff that he did, but nothing like this. And he spent 3 years. He spent 3 years in prison. Now, he was a great guy, party animal. I mean, he partied like a rock star. But they said he committed a crime, and he didn't. He went to jail for it. And he spent 3 years of, I think, a 5 or 6 year sentence. He took a plea deal. And the whole reason why he took a plea deal is because he couldn't prove that he was at home sleeping. They didn't have phone records then. They didn't have any of that stuff. He's like, I was sleeping at home. And you have to know the guy. Like, he literally will, the night before he was out drinking, they said that he was out, and they basically said that he robbed someone. They beat him up. No DNA evidence, nothing. He did nothing wrong. He just happened to be a black guy that they said, I mean, no camera footage, just somebody that said, that's my guy. That's your guy. Yeah, he did it. That's how silly it was. And frankly, he didn't have to rob anyone. So there's no, they didn't find anything on him. There was nothing other than a person that said, this is the guy that robbed him. And it wasn't even the guy that got robbed that said he robbed him. Paulo, you've heard of that before, right? You've seen that happen.
Yeah.
But his attorney, his attorney's like, you have to take the deal. Like, if you go to trial, you're gonna get 15 years. He's like, oh, I didn't do it though. He's like, it doesn't matter. You can't prove that you were at home. Imagine this: an attorney telling you you can't prove you were sleeping. This person said it was you, the black man, the tall black man, beat that guy. No marks on his hands. I mean, the guy's face looked like it had been beat with a cheese grater. Nothing. Like, no markings on him. That's like, a couple days later. Yeah, because he's like Superman. If he had cuts on his hand for beating a guy, he wouldn't have any cuts on his hands. Come on now.
He's Wolverine.
But he's black. He would say, Joe, it has nothing to do with being black. All right, well, yeah, it does. They can literally say, I keep such good records of where I am, why I am. So, I mean, I'm super careful. You want to know why? Because I know these pieces of shit out there can do something to you and say whatever they want. They can take a video like they did with Joe Biggs and make it look like he pushed over the fence and doctor it, and nobody went to jail. Apollo, who keeps going to jail? Anybody yet?
No, justice is slow. No, I mean, sometimes I have to say, okay, well, we're only a few weeks. But, the issue, I mean, first of all, what you're describing is all too common. And, we're supposed to have this presumption of innocence. I mean, what you're saying is the guy can't prove that he didn't do it. So therefore, just take the deal. It sucks. That's just how justice works in America, which is a big issue. And it affects, the black community in a huge way. It's part of the issue that we have with, like entire industries that are based off of this. But I mean, think about all the things that Joe's going through. He doesn't really have any recourse as of right now. And there are pieces of that he's never going to get back, just as many of those individuals will never. But we still don't know what actually happened because we still don't have any transparency on that. How is he supposed to say, at least he can go like man to man and say, okay, well, now we know that this happened, that these people did this. Not like Ilhan Omar is like, oh, some people somewhere did something one time when she talked about 9/11. Like, he doesn't actually have the ability to say, here is what actually happened, because all these records and all these games that they've played, they've created this alternate reality. And so the American people still don't know what happened on January 6th. I mean, it's just like this horribly polarized microcosm of all these things that have been happening in our country for decades. Is that there is no recourse because you don't actually get the opportunity to make the record clear. You don't have that right anymore.
You don't have that right, and nobody is going to come to your aid. Let me just tell you what happened to my friend. Nothing. He had his entire life ahead of him, and it's gone. spent 3 years in jail. I mean, I lost track of him years ago. But nobody believed that he did it. No one. So he went into jail and he came out a changed man. And Apollo, he didn't come out a changed man for the good. He didn't come out a changed man for the good. He came out a fighter. He came out angry. I got to go to jail and hang out with people I don't want to hang out with. He wasn't the party animal anymore. He was to sip on some bourbon in the corner and just hope everybody just left him alone. It was changed forever. But he couldn't prove that he was sleeping. I mean, and Joe Biggs could not prove that he wasn't something he wasn't because the goalpost kept moving. Most expensive case in the history of everything, with more evidence that presented the biggest amount of money they spent on a single case in DC. And all they had to show for it was the fact that they had some doctor video and a trans he-bitch as the head of the jury pool. And that's supposed to be a representation of who he is. The guy spent 10 years, got blown up, has multiple Purple Hearts, and he got his sentence commuted. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense to me that you take away a man's ability to feed his family and then say, well, at least he's not in jail. He is in jail. And if I could say anything to President Trump, is that justice should not move this slow. And whoever is making the rules for who got a pardon and who didn't, I hope that what he said is accurate. That, hey, we're working on it. We're going to commute your sentence because we want to hold these people accountable for the bad things that they did to you. But at least give him some relief. Instead, people get to walk around and they get to say he's an insurrectionist and make him live homeless and wear the same clothes you wore yesterday. And it's just not right. It flies in the face of just basic decency. It's like Tina Peters being in jail. I'm sorry, but I can't be okay with that. I don't know how anybody can. You know, Apollo, I want to say this, and then I'll get into the meat of the rest of the show today, which I do think is important. At some point, I step away from social media for a lot of reasons. People are like, Joe, are you mad that you get canceled from here or canceled from there? And the answer is, the question is, no, I'm not. I'm not mad. And they're like, why? I said, because it's not real life. And so I watch social media on the weekends and things. And, you know, but I don't, man, I got to step away from it. But I see some people that are listening to this, you guys you never sleep. It's constantly like bam, 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 bam. And sometimes I'll share other people's stuff. But man, social media is not real life. It's not real life. And 99% of the time, the guy that sits up there that has, you know, the 400,000 followers, and he sits in a room with whatever he has, and that's all he has. That's all he has is X or Facebook and being a talking head. And but that's not real life. And so we spend all of this time, you know, fighting. And it woke me up this morning, Apollo, and I had to be like, okay, yeah, I don't miss it. I don't miss social media. I like doing my show once a day. And I like doing my show once a day because enough people have walked up to me and said, Joe, you know, the end of the show when you pray, man, that literally changed my life. Or they'll say, hey, Joe, you know that you give people perspective of what's really happening. And it's okay. Like you're just completely brutally honest about what's happening. And you give people a sense of relief. Like they can have the escape valve, or you work the problem and talk about things that you were wondering about, like Zelensky and that stupid little midget and Ukraine. And you say it in such a way that people can understand it. You articulate it well. So I like doing this. I like spending time with people who are just amazing brothers and sisters around the country. I love it. But we do not live in reality. I finally just decided I keep going back and forth. It's almost like you're bipolar because I look at what happened to Joe Biggs. It makes me want to get really angry, scream and yell and call people names. Like he bitch. Sorry, it's not going away. I'm going to keep it. But the other side of me goes, at some point, there has to be a reconciliation of what truly is happening in our communities. Like, so it's truly happening with your next door neighbor. And like, I wonder how people even have time to walk their dog or cut their lawn. Maybe I'm the only one that likes to cut my own lawn. Apollo, do you like to cut your own lawn?
You know, funny enough, I actually do like cutting the lawn. It's because it's just mindless. Like, do it, and you have to think, and it's just a droning noise and fresh air, which we never get, and there's not like dings going off. It's like, it's a return back to, something right in front of you, which, like, I think men too, and I think it's part of why some of these people get so frustrated and so weird, is because that real life that you're not talking about, it like takes you away from the fact that you have hands and feet and you can do things to infect your environment. And you have all these personalities who've done this bait and switch with us and said, look, real life is here. It's hot. Look at all these retweets. Look at our following counts. This is what really matters. When you see it on the socials, that means that your world is reflected by that. And it's not. And it's why we had Big Red Wave and everyone's saying, oh, yeah, too big to rig and no big deal. And don't worry about the voting machines because we're going to go voter harvest and Scott Presser is going to run around and get people to register. And it's why we have issues like this while you have Tina Peters in jail. And then people are saying, look, America is so back. And you're like, yeah, okay. And in a few ways, you could say that. But like, there's a lot to fix. And that doesn't you don't undo all that. What's been done to the American people, not just over the last 4 years, but the last 4 decades, the last 100 years, progressively. You don't undo that in like a month. Tina Peters isn't just free, just like Joe Biggs doesn't get his life back. Just like the American people don't get, like snap back into the real world because they don't know what reality is and they don't know how to differentiate. Like they can't tell the difference between social media and mowing the grass. They could be in VR. And there are probably kids now who think that is real life.
And it doesn't give you, I mean, maybe it's you feel good about speaking. Maybe you want people to hear you.
Yeah, you say it all the time. They feel invisible.
Yeah, but how much more invisible could you feel than Joe Biggs? And he got his sentence commuted. He didn't get it pardoned. He got it commuted. I mean, think about that. Think about the implications of that. I can't rent a house. So what's he supposed to do? So it's like a private prison. So what you're saying is that he deserves to be in this place where it's like a prison. And we don't give him any relief. There's no relief to be had. Is there? I mean, maybe I'm wrong at what I'm saying right now. Maybe people can't understand the fact that I'm articulating for like, why am I advocating for Joe Biggs? He got out. He should just be happy. Well, how are you happy when it doesn't end? A commutation means you're still a felon. And now he's got to think about, I got to show up to the airport 4 hours early. So how like you have a 4-lane highway and 2 lanes are the tollway? He's not allowed to use the tollway, and the 2 lanes that are there are always jam-packed. So everything that he does is a reminder of the fact that they got you in your pound of flesh, even though President Trump commuted his sentence. The fact is that they still own him. They still have the ability to inflict pain on him at any time. They can do it anytime they want. They can inflict pain on him. And they wanted to show him that they had that ability. How is that a just system? How is that a DOJ or a judiciary that is actually out to protect the people? It's not. And I would argue even further that if that's the case, and if it's not something that's just, then how do we sit here and say that it's like the greatest thing on earth? Well, we don't own anything. I can't. It really is upsetting when you look at it on its face because you can't make it make sense to me.
Yeah, it's hard for me, honestly, seeing a lot of these things over the last month and like a lot of issues. I mean, there's part of me that just says, hey, I have to have patience and see, because there are a lot of moving pieces. I don't know what all of them are. So I try to give grace, but then at the same time, how much do you take at face value? Because we know that the majority of a lot of the things that we've seen over the last 4 years were not at face value. They presented at face value. That was not reality, just like social media is not. So I have to look and say, okay, I mean, where is the point where I look at face value and where is the point where I say, what things could be happening that are going to turn out good.
All right, so let me ask you this question, and maybe this gives you, this is another. So this morning I was on Muckrakers over in the UK. So it's a program that they have over there. It's a show in the UK called Muckrakers.
Yeah, Muckraker. And he asked me a bunch of questions about, what the difference is between the UK and free speech and what they have in the US. And so I walked through this entire process with him. And there was this other guy named Andy that was on it too. And so they would come up with something and I would counter it. And so he'd ask questions. And the guy that was running it, Andrew, who's a different Andrew, he had a lot of thought, good processes that it's called the Pulse Today. So it's a broadcast network over in the UK. And so we're walking through it and he brings up stuff like Tommy Robinson, the guy that literally had a video of a immigrant illegal there raping or beating another young girl. And so he put the video out and then was charged with libel for saying that the guy did what was on the tape that he did. And even he went to a court, he was found guilty of libel for actually putting something up that was true. And even though it was true, he was punished for it. And then that case, he lost that case and they took a bunch of money from him. And then, so he continued to put it out there. He got found in contempt of court. So then he went and he's being held in solitary confinement for restating what he stated before, which was true. And yet they went after him, right? So you have this entire system. And then the guy argued with me. I said, he goes, well, he actually was not put in jail. Hold on. He was not put in jail. Is that English? He was not put in jail for libel. He was put in jail for contempt of court for not listening. And I'm like, kangaroo. It's still a freaking kangaroo. He was in contempt of court for saying what the guy did that you just found him guilty of libel when he never lied. So anyway, even in the UK, they try to justify this behavior. The reason why I bring that up is because we're going to talk a little bit about that today. JD Vance goes in, he basically is putting them on notice. Like he's put everyone he was at the Munich Security Conference, putting them on notice that they're terrorizing free thought. And the two things which we talked about today were, one, the woman that was praying, did not say a word, wasn't carrying a sign. This actually happened. It happened in the United States too, by the way. Happened in the United States. President Trump pardoned a woman who went to prison at the DOJ, said was praying in front of a abortion clinic. A woman over in the UK was praying, didn't have a sign, wasn't wearing a shirt. Was wearing a shirt, but wasn't wearing anything that said that, no to abortions, was just outside praying. And this is how silly, when I was on this show, and the guy that was running was actually pretty reasonable. The guy that was on there that, works for a university and is there to represent the educational environment, the EDIs, he justified it. He justified this woman. Anyway, this is crazy. So that's what JD is talking about. And he's talking about the fact that they are terrorizing their citizenry and that you can't have democracy. So he had this to say. Let's go ahead and play it real quick. This is him putting them on notice. Play it.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizen suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Free speech is in retreat. Now think about the implications of what he's saying. But this is what's even more startling about that is the response that he got. It's the whole idea. It's the whole idea that they actually are trying to convince people that what they're doing is good while they're doing evil. And we sit back and we want to champion different stories. And this is where I go sideways with having a conversation about, I don't know, President Trump, or Elon Musk, did he give the salute, this Nazi salute, when he was trying to say, my heart goes out to you? And that people can actually build a story that he was doing the Nazi salute based on a movement of his arm. So you got to be super careful not to put your hands in certain places and move them certain ways. Because if you do, you're going to become an extremist, racist, homophobic, whistle, woo, woo, woo. Apollo, I saw your hands. You're guilty. You're guilty, damn it. You're guilty. Because I said you're guilty. But this is this is how you know. And I said it this morning when I was on this show. The leadership, it's a cancer. We have a cancer that has grown through not just government, but our educational environment. It's rotted to the core. And it's an indoctrination camp where they want to convince you that the wacky behavior of these radicals is real. It's not. It's not. But here's what the German defense minister had to say. Let's play it.
This is why I cannot just ignore what we heard before. I cannot not comment on the speech we heard by the US Vice President. We fight for your right to be against us. That is the motto, one of the mottos of the Bundeswehr, and it stands for our democracy. This democracy that was just called into question by the US Vice President, and not just the German democracy, but Europe as a whole. He spoke of the annulment of democracy, and if I understood him correctly, he compares the condition of Europe with the condition that prevails in some authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is not the Europe, not the democracy where I live and where I conduct my election campaign right now. And this is not the democracy that I witness every day in our parliament. In our democracy, every opinion has a voice. And it makes it possible for parties that are partly extremist, such as the AfD, and they can campaign just as any other party. This is democracy. And if the Vice President had the opportunity to switch on his TV set when he arrived yesterday, he would have seen one of those candidates in primetime TV. By the way, we even admit media that spread Russian propaganda, and the representatives of the federal government answer their questions. Nobody is excluded. But democracy does not mean that a vociferous minority will automatically be right, and they cannot decide what truth is. It does not mean that anyone can say anything, and democracy must be able to defend itself against extremists that try to destroy it. I am happy to live in Europe where this democracy is defended every day against its internal and external enemies. And therefore, I would like to explicitly contradict and oppose the impression that Vice President Vance suggested here, that our democracies oppress and silence minorities. We not only know against whom we defend our countries, but also what we defend it for. It's for democracy, for freedom of...
Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now that when Hitler was killing a bunch of people, he didn't come out and say, I'm killing a bunch of people. It never happened. When you would talk about just the danger of the EU and how oppressive it has become, this guy is talking about what happens in Parliament. Well, the people in Parliament were in large part selected just like they were in the United States. So I just decided I was going to start digging into the election systems across the world. You know, what systems are they using? How do they make sure they validate it? Is it transparent? The answer to all of those questions, if you want to ask if it's a safe and secure system, the answer is no, it's not. It's a manipulated system that allows for really bad people to become elected. And they perpetuate it downstream and do the same thing. They use the same modeling that they used overseas. They use it here. And they do it from the ground up. They get people in the local level, then they get people at the state level, then they take over election systems. So once they do that, they move into federalizing those elections so that they have the ability to control the entire apparatus. They have done it for decades. It started way back when in the United States, but it's much worse in the EU. But he said that they're free and they can talk and have conversations. There's no consequences and there's free speech. Free speech is not saying, I'd like an apple, not a banana. Free speech is not saying, well, I disagree with you. That last 2 points that went in the basket, that was after the buzzer. Free speech is not even the idea that you can say that, you know, I think that this leader is better than this leader. That's not free speech. Free speech is the ability to articulate thought, to question the identity or the motives of things that are happening around you. But he says it's a free country. Well, unfortunately, if that's true, then how is this true? Let's go ahead and play the next one.
It's illegal to display Nazi symbolism, a swastika, or deny the Holocaust. That's clear. Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you in the internet, if I insult you or a politician,
that sticks around forever.
Yeah.
The prosecutors explain German law also prohibits the spread of malicious gossip, violent threats, and fake quotes.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. That's the same for us.
The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time for repeat offenders. But in most cases, a judge levies a stiff fine and sometimes keeps their devices.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked. It's a kind of punishment if you lose your smartphone. It's even worse than the fine you have to pay.
Because your whole life is typically on your phone now.
Now imagine if someone showed up and they took everything from you because you posted a meme. A meme. Imagine the institutional slavery that would have to be in place to say that you posting a meme could land you in such hot water that they would violently come in and raid your home. Let's go ahead and play the next one.
It's 6:01 on a Tuesday morning, and we were with state police as they raided this apartment in northwest Germany.
Hier ist die Polizei, wir müssen bitte mal mit Ihnen reden.
Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Prosecutors say those electronics may have been used to commit a crime. The crime, posting a racist cartoon online. At the exact same time across Germany, more than 50 similar raids played out. Part of what prosecutors say is a coordinated effort to curb online hate speech in Germany.
They're in favor of this. Do you understand? They want to model America's laws after Europe's. 6 armed agents breaking into a home and stealing a man's laptop and his cell phone because he posted a cartoon on the internet. I'd almost like to see the same segment with CBS News. They're going around, they're filming it, and yes, we have to seize this for hate speech. These computers were used to put up illegal material on the internet. And they're like, yes, wow, so efficient the way you're doing this. 50 raids across Germany. That sounds like it's a really big threat. So what exactly did they post? It's like, well, they were posting Jewish propaganda. They were posting pictures with the Star of David, the Hanukkah candles, menorah. These are illegal symbols. It's like, well, wait. I thought I was for this. I thought I was for this. No, wait, that sounds very Nazi-ish. But would it really look all that different? If the Germans were Nazis today, would what we just saw be any different except for what the content was? It's like you have this whole construct on this anti-Nazi principle, but you're violating those very principles in upholding.
I want you to pay attention to what you just saw. And if you think it's only happening in Europe, it was not that long ago before Tucker Carlson got canceled that we had that same thing happening here. We're heading down that same road. Now, keep in mind, Joe Biggs just came on earlier, and you could say whatever you want about Joe Biggs. You could be on the left. And one of the things I find interesting, by the way, is that more people on the left are listening to me. That's crazy. Apollo, is that not crazy? Like crazy. They're like, this guy's, what was the text or the email I got a couple days ago? You bring a refreshing kind of middle of the road. I'm actually not middle, but it makes sense. It's common sense that we should be brothers and sisters, and more people that actually, by the way, if you believe in God, it's really tough for you. I know you want to say you're a progressive person, but you're probably not. You're probably a middle of the road, leave me alone type of guy or gal. But we can't look at what's happening and just because there was so much chaos, so much like the fog over the water, so to speak. We live in. Like the fog is gone, chaos is gone. We're just cleaning it all out. And we think it's just happening over there. That when JD Vance was talking, he's only warning about over there. We just heard about Joe Biggs being challenge coins and the manipulation of videos and a he bitch that ran the trial and the judge changing her mind or his mind because all of a sudden someone got to that judge and all of a sudden it became the worst crime in the world. And then they had to have him detained and they had to put him in solitary confinement for 2 years. All that stuff had to happen, right? We have to torture this guy for 2 years. And none of that happened over in Europe. None of it happened in Germany. None of it happened in the UK. It happened right here in the United States. And we haven't even started talking about the J6er that lost his eye. The other one that was brutally raped, the guy that was brutally raped by a bunch of prison guards and a jail underneath these. We haven't even started talking about that yet. But then there's this story. There's this story that I think we should pay attention to. This is the story of Douglas Mackey. You remember Douglas Mackey? Let's go ahead and play it. This is Tucker before he got 86th out of Fox News.
The federal criminal trial of a man called Douglas Mackey began this week in Brooklyn. It's the single greatest assault on free speech and human rights in this country's modern history. The Biden administration is trying to send a man to prison for saying things they don't like and create a precedent so they can do it to you too. Here's the background. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Mackey posted memes that made fun of Hillary Clinton and her supporters. One of them on Twitter read this way, quote, "Avoid the line, vote from home, text Hillary to 59925. That was obviously a joke, and everyone knew it was a joke. But the FBI, which probably has nothing else to do, tracked down several people who texted that number in Mackey's meme. None of them remembered even doing it. That's according to discovery in the case. So there's no victim here. No one was fooled by what Mackey did. And yet, days after Biden took office, 4 years after Mackey posted that meme, the feds arrested him, and they charged him with conspiring to interfere with the rights of American citizens. He'd go to jail for 10 years for that. That means if you crack a joke on the internet that Democrats don't like, federal prosecutors get to decide you're interfering with an election. It's hard to imagine a more Soviet prosecution than this, but it gets worse. The DOJ's key witness against Mackey is a member of Mackey's group chat from 7 years ago. But DOJ will not let his lawyers, Mackey's lawyers, conduct a full cross-examination from that witness because he works for the FBI. In other words, the FBI put an agent in his group text. DOJ just obtained an order, quote, precluding questioning by the defense concerning the details of any of the confidential witnesses' current proactive work for the FBI or any other government agencies. What? The DOJ is also telling Mackey's lawyers they can't even say the name of this witness, this snitch, in open court. Now, that violates the confrontation clause in the Constitution. You get to confront witnesses against you in a free country, especially when they're FBI informants, but that no longer exists. The DOJ says if this man's identity is disclosed, he will face online harassment, therefore he gets to testify anonymously. What's incredible about the standard is it does not apply to the defense's own witnesses, because rights only apply to the Biden people. Yesterday, a hatchet man with the Southern Poverty Law Center, an organization that currently employs at least one suspected domestic terrorist who was recently arrested, reached out to a defense expert witness called George Hawley. The Southern Poverty Law Center's goon also obtained Hawley's private emails and questioned him about them. He threatened to write an article about Hawley and asked Hawley if his employer was aware that he was a witness in this case. That's witness intimidation. That's what it is, witness intimidation. And it worked. Hawley had to withdraw as a witness. He's not an FBI informant, so he gets no protection from harassment. Today, Judge Nicholas Garofis postponed the trial until next week so the defense can find a new expert. He should dismiss this case immediately with prejudice. Everything about it, starting with the charges themselves, to the timing, to the intimidation of witnesses, violates the Constitution.
Now, I want you to know this, that Douglas Mackey was actually sentenced to 7 months in prison. 7 months. 7 months in prison for something that has no known victim. That wasn't in Europe. So you have Joe Biggs, you have the January 6ers, you have this fraudulent trial that I have, or this thing that's going on with what's his face, Eric Coomer. You have the Dominion Voting Systems that is acting as a pseudo-government agency that now is above reproach, and you're not allowed to question them, even as they screw up elections all over the country. Smartmatic, same thing. Lawfare, judges that are on the payroll. It's hard to ignore it. How do you ignore any of that information and say to yourself that you sit in the middle of even if you want to call it a democracy, how is it a democracy? Because it's not. And beyond that, oh my gosh, you're going to have to hear this. This is how they justify it. Josephine Ballon, CEO of Hate Aid, you can't make this stuff up, thinks that free speech should have boundaries. But who gets to decide the boundaries? Let's go ahead and play it.
The criticism that, this feels like the surveillance that Germany conducted 80 years ago. How do you respond to that?
There is no surveillance.
Josephine Ballon is a CEO of Hate Aid, a Berlin-based human rights organization that supports victims of online violence.
In the United States, a lot of people look at this and say this is restricting free speech. It's a threat to democracy.
Free speech needs boundaries. And in the case of Germany, these boundaries are part of our constitution. Without boundaries, a very small group of people can rely on endless freedom to say anything that they want, while everyone else is scared and intimidated.
And your fear is that if people are freely attacked online, that they'll withdraw from the discussion.
This is not only a fear, it's already taking place. Already half of the internet users in Germany are afraid to express their political opinion, and they rarely participate in public debates online anymore. Half of the internet.
Yeah, people don't say anything because they think you're all a bunch of netballs. Let's talk about the reality. It's not the fact that you're suppressing the voice of an idea because the only idea you want heard is the one that you have. This all just goes back to a guy named George Soros and his wreaking havoc on, by the way, we funded it. So you had really radical people in different areas that were pressing the button and sending money different places. I want to show this because I think it's important for you to see this. This is a video of, in Germany, people that were protesting open borders late last year. They said, if you repost this, you would go to prison. This is something that actually happened. Go ahead and put it up if we would next to me. This is a protest, and in Germany, they said, if you put up this post, I don't know if we can get it up next to me. If you put up this post, and what they're saying is that everyone in Germany was saying, I don't want open borders. I want to close the borders. By the way, all of the people are saying the same thing. The people are consistently saying the same thing in every country. The leadership don't listen. They just do not listen to them. So what does that mean? Does that mean we have democratic processes? The answer is no. Are we slaves? Yes. You're a slave. You're 100% on the ant farm. I don't remember the show. What was it called? The thing with the ant farm and the ants wanted to just. Is it called Bug's Life? Bug's Life?
Yeah, Bug's Life. Yeah, the animated movie.
Where everyone is, you have a place and you're not allowed to get outside that place unless they tell you can get outside that place. Institutional slavery. But if you were to post this video of thousands of Germans walking through the streets protesting open borders, if you were just to post this, they would come to you and they would throw you in jail. They would literally throw you in jail. Imagine how you would feel in America. Would you be afraid to put anything online to say how you feel? The same thing we said for the UK. They're having meetings in the back of pubs about how do they overthrow this radicalized idea that's in their country. It literally is an infection of their society. And it's not just Germany. A psychologist, the police and a psychologist, the police in Britain and a psychologist both showed up to a man's home because he said that Christians must stand up after an Islamic attack. Now, this gets to the same thing. 250,000 women and children were brutally raped by illegals in their country over a 30-year period of time, and they were not allowed to talk about it. If they were raped, they could not go public with it. Imagine that. You're punishing the person that's been victimized so that you can actually stand next to the evil, literally raped women and children. Let's go ahead and play this.
Hello, my name's Sean. I'm a senior nurse. I work at the NHS.
Yep.
Name and number, please, mate.
Yeah, PC Green, Echo Bravo 428.
John Joe, PC Turner, Hastings Police Station,
Thank you.
959.
So what's this about then?
So it was just a few
I won't film it,
concerns.
I'll just get it recorded.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just a few concerns.
It's smelly right now, sorry.
It's all right.
He's like a mop, he just picks everything up.
It's lovely. What's his name?
Klaus. So why are you here today, sorry? No, you can all sit down, it's not a problem. You've literally just missed the missus and that, they've gone out like 10 minutes ago. Yeah. So what's the issue?
So it was just to, obviously what we've been told, that you might have a few concerns, a few things that are bothering you at the moment.
Yeah.
Whether there's
That's
anything...
bothering everyone else in the country right now. So what are the concerns you're here for? Because this is religious discrimination right now, because you wouldn't be knocking on Muslims' doors if they had this conversation, because I already know why you're here. So this is religious.
Why do you think we're here?
I don't know, what's the priest told you?
They're just, people have raised concerns.
What concerns?
About your views.
What
whether
views?
That you've got concerns about what's going on in Australia.
Yeah, so I'm an Orthodox Christian. Now you've turned up at my house because I went and see my priest. So I'm going to get you all on film because this is going straight to my solicitor.
So what are your concerns? Is there anything that we can help with?
No, firstly, I don't mean any disrespect to any of you. I don't want to sound abrupt if you can tell me why you're here.
So I think, as PC Sounds explains, so there was a report about some beliefs being expressed. So the reason I'm here is I work for the NHS, and if you're willing, I'm happy to talk and listen with you about
fine.
if you've got any concerns about your well-being.
No, I'm fine. I'm
so
fine. Klaus, out. Sorry. No, because he's just jarring otherwise. You can sit down, mate.
So my understanding is, now I'm not a police officer, I'm a nurse, so my understanding is...
So because I've questioned about the church not acting on the behalf of Christians, you're now turning up here with mental health nurses assuming that I'm some right-wing nutter.
So no one assumes anything. Can I explain my point of view? And you're happy, I'm happy to...
No, that's fine.
So,
Okay, so I want you to follow me with this because I'm going to slow this down a little bit so you can see what I'm trying to so you can get what I'm trying to lay down. Okay, so we just talked about the fact that they showed up with a psychologist because they wanted him to figure out if there's any concerns that they have. This is kind of like the mob shows up and says, we want to make sure we can protect you. Just give us a VIG. Just pay us a little bit. We'll make sure we keep you safe, right? And then you talk badly about the mob. Mob shows back up and says, "It looks like you need some slippers. We need to get you some concrete slippers here. I think, Apollo, we're going to put some slippers on you, boy. Get over here. Sit down with me for a minute." What seems to be the problem? We were just fine. Everything was good. But then you have these thoughts. They're betraying you, I think, Apollo. I think we might have to put you in some cement slippers. What do you think, Apollo? I'm going to put you in some of those slippers. Why don't you come stand over here in these buckets for a minute? You didn't appreciate the slippers?
That was actually the best accent I've heard you do, I think.
We'll just sit down. Just come on. Vinny, go outside and give me some garden utensils. His toenails look really long. This morning when I was on the show, I saw the justification of why the UK is so weak. Not from the guy that ran the muckrakers. He was actually good. But the guy that was on, who was justifying and saying, wow, y'all got that wrong. And, we didn't actually, she was actually arrested because she was within the 200 meters. So you can't be within the 200 meters and pray. See, that's the problem. She just has to get a 201 meters. So she wasn't arrested for praying. She was arrested for the vicinity. She was within the wrong vicinity of prayer. God can't come that close to an abortion clinic. See how that works? You see what I'm talking about? It's ridiculous. But it gets worse. This is not in the United States. The idea, the cancer that we have of talking about restricting free speech is not in the United States. These whack job pieces of trash, I'm just going to say them, these fucking people are retarded, okay? This is CBS. Margaret Brennan had this to say about free speech. I'm gonna play it for you, and then we're gonna come back, and then I might play it a second time just because it's almost as bad as the Coomer deal. Go ahead and play it.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
All right, Marco Rubio actually got it right for once, partially. There was only one ruling party, and there was no opposition. There was no right party. It wasn't right. The Nazis weren't the right. The Nazis were the progressives. Number one. Number two is that she said something that I think is really important. She goes, and you know that. So she used a psychological tool to say, and you know that. And as you know, this is what is. So you're trying to predepose the knowledge that you think you should have. And you make the assumptive close, and most weak-minded people will just assume that they won't ask for the receipts. They won't get involved in the questioning of that information. They're going to accept it as fact because somebody says, "And as you know, this is true." Brilliant, but it backfired because Rubio, in this case, was not predisposed to a bad outcome. Not always the case, but Rubio did fire back about the radical leftists, not just in Europe, but in the United States. And I wish he would do the same thing down in Guatemala, which he's not. We need to get on that as well. We need to talk more about what's happening in Guatemala. Super important, by the way. Super, super important. But let's go ahead and play this of Rubio.
Why would our allies or anybody be irritated by free speech and by someone giving their opinion? We are, after all, democracies. The Munich Security Conference is largely a conference of democracies in which one of the things that we cherish and value is the ability to speak freely and provide your opinions. And so I think if anyone's angry about his words, they don't have to agree with him, but to be angry about it, I think actually makes his point. I thought it was actually a pretty historic speech, whether you agree with him or not. I think the valid points he's making to Europe is we are concerned that the true values that we share, the values that bind us together with Europe, are things like free speech and democracy and our shared history in winning 2 world wars and defeating Soviet communism and the like. These are the values that we shared in common. And in that Cold War, we fought against things like censorship and oppression and so forth. And when you see backsliding and you raise that, that's a very valid concern. We can't tell them how to run their countries. He simply expressed in a speech his view of it, which a lot of people frankly share. And I thought he said a lot of things in that speech that needed to be said. And honestly, I don't know why anybody would be upset about it. People are allowed, you don't have to agree with someone's speech. I happen to agree with a lot of what he said, but you don't have to agree with someone's speech to at least appreciate the fact they have a right to say it, and that you should listen to it and see whether those criticisms are valid. I assure you, the United States has come under withering criticism on many occasions from many leaders in Europe, and we don't go around throwing temper tantrums about it.
So we live in this country they have free speech, but we really don't have free speech because if you stand and you speak out, you have conversations about things that are really happening in this country, you will get canceled. I got canceled from X. I got canceled from what's it called? Facebook. I got canceled from Instagram. Got canceled from. I think I got kicked off. Twice on X. Once on Twitter, and then it became X. And then I had a couple thousand articles that were written about me that were bad, that weren't true. None of it was true. And then I have a Wikipedia page that's completely false and made up. It's a joke. Like the whole thing is one big joke that it's a ruse that somewhere along the line we care about whether or not we protect the truth, because they don't want the truth. The truth isn't what they're actually chasing. And what I said this morning when I was on the Muckruckers deal is, look, you cut the tongue out of the guy that's telling the truth, not the guy that's lying. Otherwise, flat earthers would be a lot more, they would have cut them off a long time ago. Or the Apollo moon landing, I don't even know if it's true or not true. It doesn't matter. But the point is, they don't bother with them. They only bother with those that talk about this. I'm just saying, you're an institutional slave. You don't own your house. You don't own your car. You own nothing. Government owns everything, and you rent it from them. You'd say, no, I own my house. I get paid on it. Don't pay your property tax for a year. See what happens. They'll come and take it from you. You shouldn't have to pay for the roads and then have to pay to drive on the roads. You shouldn't be taxed everywhere you actually turn up, and you shouldn't be told you have to shut up and sit down and that they'll take care of the election systems. You just sit and wait. Now, as we kind of walk past this free speech deal, let's get to DOGE. Let's get to what Elon Musk is going through right now. He's on another week of government. They call it an exorcism. I mean, that's really what they're doing. They're just trying to get rid of the devil. DOGE has created an X account for the IRS. And here's the best part about the entire thing. They're asking for help from the public. DOGE IRS, it's at DOGE_IRS. DOGE is seeking help from the public. Please DM this account with insights or findings in fixing waste, fraud, and abuse related to the Internal Revenue Service. And George Behizzi had to write the IRS itself. He doesn't even know yet. He hadn't even gotten to the place where he has enough that it would make a difference, but there are plenty of people that have. This is an article that just came out on The Guardian, and this is kind of them freaking out. The IRS reportedly preparing to give Musk DOGE agency access to taxpayer data. The U.S. Federal Tax Collection Agency is reported preparing to give a team member of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, which has already gutted several federal agencies and sparked multiple lawsuits, access to personal taxpayer data. The New York Times and the Washington Post both reported early on Monday that the Internal Revenue Service has received a request for access to a classified system that contains sensitive personal financial records. I just want to remind all of you that this is the guy that owned records on 95% of the public. He was the guy that ran PayPal, so he already had all your records. The request, which is reportedly under review, would give DOGE officials broad access to tax agency systems, property, and data sets, including tax returns. They need to get to the email records as well. One of these, the Integrated Data Retrieval System, the IDRS, gives tax agencies employees the ability to see IRS accounts and bank information, the Washington Post reported. Waste, fraud, and abuse have been deeply entrenched in our broken systems. Now, let me just tell you what I think they're doing. And I'll just say it out loud. I think that all of this is cover for them uncovering something else that they're looking for that is going to uncover what they know to be systemic, long fraud inside the IRS, or excuse me, inside the government, that will lead back to congressmen, so on and so forth. Now, there is some good stuff happening with that, but this is even better. Okay. Up to 15,000 probationary workers expect to be axed in middle of tax season amid DOGE cuts. The IRS will lay off 15,000 employees. Now, here's the problem. How many employees did they hire? 70,000? So you're only getting rid of 15,000. That's not enough. They need to get rid of all of them. Matter of fact, why aren't we abolishing the IRS? Why aren't we getting to some sort of flat tax system that says, all right, from the federal and the state level, you only get 10%. You get total of 10% of everybody's pay. That's it. You get nothing more, not a dollar more. If you can't balance out the budget on 10%, you don't deserve to be in business. That's what I think. Here's Elon speaking on the facts of the issues of our tax system. And by the way, this is interesting because he is the recipient of some of the largest tax cuts you're going to see out there. So let's see what he has to say. Let's go play.
You get taxed on what you own, you get taxed on what you buy, and you get taxed on what you own. And it's like, okay, this is taxes, and and then what does it get spent on? A bunch of the stuff it gets spent on you don't even agree with. So that's why we need to reduce the size of government and just spend less money, and let the people keep a lot more of their hard-earned money. You know, it's yeah. So.
Make them keep more of their hard-earned money. Now, this is going to be coming as a shock to all of you. The U.S. government has claimed that it has almost 5,000 tons of gold. But Fort Knox Gold Reserve has not been audited since 1974. It's been 50 years. No one has seen even 1 ounce of that gold. And so I think the next thing that they're going to possibly do is they're going to audit the Fort Knox, audit the gold. And Elon said it would be cool to do a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox and talk about some of the hidden or the gold that is missing. Imagine if you got to the bottom of what happened with Fort Knox. Here it is. This is in response to an Alex Jones video. Which, by the way, we haven't heard much about that. You think the government has kind of pulled off the thing of letting people go after him? I think you have. I think that they're not going to go after Alex Jones with such vigor anymore. It seems as if, you know, I've been on here a long time. We've been on here a couple hours. So thanks for giving me the time. Thanks for listening to the Joe Biggs story and kind of looking at and breaking down what it is I think that we need to articulate. And that is that we are tired. I don't know of many Americans that aren't tired. We're tired of getting up and going to work and seeing 56 cents on every dollar go to a government that basically gets to abuse and persecute us at will. We heard what happened to Joe Biggs. We hear what the IRS does over and over and over again to Americans. Man, you can't even drive down the street without a red camera light sending you a bill for $175. Or if you're in the tollway because you have to get home and you cut over in the tollway and you're willing to pay the $2, fine, just find me the $2 for going down the tollway. No, they don't send you a bill for $2 because you cut across the yellow 2 white lines. And so we're going to send you a bill for $250. Like everywhere you turn, the judiciary is unchecked. The judges are not held to account for any of the lives that they have ruined. They want to hold the police officer at the lowest level accountable. They want to say the police officer that carries the gun, that goes out there, you should be responsible for the lives that you ruin. But they will not run it all the way up and hold everyone accountable that is actually the people that are holding the purse strings on the persecution of Americans. And what I'm saying is not, like, you check my math. Go ahead and check it for me. Please check it for me. Tell me how what I'm saying is not true. Tell me how we can gloss over these things. We talk about, oh, you know, it's fine. I get to, you know, everything's good. Apollo, it's all good. You still got money to put gas in the car. It's not good. It's not good at all. And I'm not saying that we don't have blessings, but those blessings come from God. They certainly don't come from a government. Just because you can sidestep a Mack truck coming at you at 90 miles an hour and not get crushed by it doesn't mean there's not another Mack truck. We spend our entire lives playing Frogger with government institutions. And they just run faster and faster and faster. And sooner or later, you're either going to fall off the lily pad and drown, or you're going to get hit by a truck, or you might be one of the lucky ones that gets all the way to the other side. Only it'll be game over because they'll have ruined everything else around you. And now you don't even want to live in that environment anymore because it's total shit. And with all that, we have lots of blessings. But it doesn't mean that we should let them take off the apple or take off the table what's not theirs. And with that said, I just want to do two things. I want to give notice to President's Day, and I want to show this if I can, because there is a resurgency of patriotism. And Pete Hegseth, you know, of course he knows what patriotism is. He served his country honorably. And I want to play this. This is just a couple minutes. This is leading from the front. This is what you call leading from the front. Let's go ahead and play it.
Now going to transition over to our target, which is this fifth trailer. Okay. And then I will drop a 3D printed mortar on top of that container. You got to factor for the wind. Well, still, yeah. Got it. That gets moving, sir. The ghost deck, sir, is the one behind you now. You walk over to this is the computer control. Demonstrating the ghost stuff there. As you can see, it actually has AI inside of it that can identify people and vehicles that help us, to help us spot people like that. That's, oh yeah, see me right there. So you can just look people right across the street and so it's super easy to use, really easy to pick up. We got a 5-day initial qualification course that we run servers through to train how to use the system. So right now, because of our small airspace, we're just basically in a couple right here. There's not so much we're going to be actually able to do right now, but it is a very usable. But I mean, I see one of those spots you're calling people on. Yeah, absolutely. It tells you where.
Did you see that UAV they were flying with? Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
It's spherical. Dude, that is like some sick stuff. That is unbelievable. Well, before I go to a commercial break, before we pray us out, I want to say happy President's Day to the most ionic president in history. And here's a picture of just President Trump from his mugshot to when he got shot in the ear, to working at McDonald's, to driving a trash truck, to throwing all the papers away. I don't see it on the Time magazine, to basically it's iconic, super iconic. Look, we are going to, everyone thinks that because President Trump's in office that everything's going to get easier. Well, Joe Big's life is not easier. There's a lot of people whose lives are not easier. And we just have to keep that in mind, and we have to start working the problem and getting rid of government waste. But here's the next thing we're going to work on: DOGing the states. The states' waste in their budget is probably somewhere between 55 and 65%. If you think about how much money they spend on administrations and buildings and stuff that they have no business actually having, that waste is ginormous. So if we got rid of 55 to 60%, we can get rid of property tax. You should not have property tax on your home. I don't care what state you're in. You should not be paying property tax. Listen, everyone needs to understand this. Well, how do you pay for schools? I don't know, figure out a different way, but don't make sure that you have somebody that has a little bit of security on their home. They shouldn't have to pay property tax. Someone should not be able to come in and swoop in and take over people's homes because they can't afford to pay the government to rent their house from them. That shouldn't happen. It should not happen. Nobody should be paying property tax, ever. You shouldn't pay property tax. Well, you got to come up with a better system. No, I don't have to come up with a better system. I have to cut out all the fat so that people can get down to enjoying their lives and not having entire governments and people that get pensions for doing nothing, for 20 years of doing nothing and get paid for it. Well, Joe, there's a lot of good government workers. I'm sure there is. And they can go to the private sector and they can have their own pensions the same way everyone else does by contributing to 401ks and putting money into investments, just like everyone else does. They should get no free rides. Nobody in this country should be treated differently or outside of the parity that should exist between citizens. And that's exactly what happens is right now, people that are in government get to just eat off of the American people and pass it down to their cronies and family members. And we're all left holding their back. And then if they don't like us, they can just persecute us and put us through a system, a judiciary that is 100% written and driven by really bad people. But Apollo, you have anything else you want to add? Am I missing something on the...
I was just putting it up because it's good to be on the chat again. I'm trying to look at YouTube and all the different places. I know, Jeff, thanks for popping over to YouTube. That's what I was just saying hi to the chat.
Yeah, let's go check out YouTube. I haven't been on YouTube in a bit. I should probably go over there. Anything I should see or no?
I was chatting with Jeff. He was saying that the Rumble chat was being silly.
Which chat is being silly?
Rumble. Some people are having... Sometimes it'll do that weird thing where it like grays you out and you can't post. The chat just glitches because it's Rumble.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to have lots more to say, lots more to do. We got some stuff that we're going to be launching. Everyone's wanted to know what happened on Friday. Okay. So I've told you before that certain people have taken a lot of money from me, a lot. Certain people that walk around talking about how much they've done in this movement. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know of a lot of people that have done more in this movement than the people that I've surrounded myself with that are really good people, like Dave Clements, myself. There's a lot of us that have given and worked behind the scenes to get stuff done, and even in front of the scene, like constantly standing up, going. I mean, last year was 202 flights, right? I mean, it was 700 and some over a 4-year period of time where I spent away from my family, working on things. And you say, well, Joe, you decided. I did. I mean, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me, but I'm saying that if you do that and they get to take the money from you. So I'm owed over $4 million. Okay. And they took it from my companies and they took it from my family. And then they ran around and they've done really bad things. Okay. Really bad things. And they've done it under the pretense of I'm a good guy and give me more money. And they're still out there fundraising. Well, Friday, we had been waiting for something to come in, some funds to come in from a different source that I've been waiting on for about 2.5 years. And so I had decided that I was going to sell a portion of companies to make sure that I could carry what I needed to do to get to launch of these 2 new products. And so it was going to be a big sacrifice. But then Friday afternoon, I had been praying, like, Lord, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do next. Everything's going really well. These people have done really bad things to me. I need to be able to fund those lawsuits, and I'm going to be dropping them here shortly. And we dropped 2 other lawsuits, and both of them settled. So this is the bigger one. This is going to be a big shocker. It's actually not. For some of you that are listening, it's not going to be a shocker for you. But so anyway, my wife walked in because, it's kind of a big deal. I talked to my family about things that are going on, and I go, I really don't want to do this. Apollo, you and I talked about this, right? Like it was going to get really tight. And how do we make sure that we maintain and grow through these things? And my wife comes to me and says, so we got this deposit. And so I went, let me see. And she showed it to me while I was on the show. And you don't understand. I guess you'd have to understand that. Like I stay pretty calm. I'm just like, all right, well, Lord, if this is what's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. I'm going to work really hard to make it not have to go that way. But if it does, which adversely affects my family. And so that was Friday at whatever it was. We were on the thing 4:00 or so. And then all of a sudden, here comes this money that just drops in my account that we've been waiting on for 2 years that we had written off. We literally said it was not coming. So, we're just fine. Not coming. And it showed up on Friday. So sometimes, it's a big number, which helps me to, do the things that I need to do to get through the period of launching some of the products that we're putting out in marketplace, getting, Untamed so that we can have more people on the platform. And we've got some great people that we're going to be joining us I'm going to have, and I think I can say this, and it'd be okay. But we're going to have some pretty cool people that are going to be joining us at the Untamed Network. One of those people is Wayne Root. I'm going to be working on getting Wayne Root on the platform. I've got a couple of other people that we've been talking to about getting on the platform. We're going to launch a new platform. Apollo, it's going to be pretty great, right? Be doing stuff that we did before, push ourselves into radio environments. We're going to re-sign a contract with BEK to be on more of the traditional TV stations, the cable networks. And so we got a lot of great things that are happening. But to extend the voice of what we're trying to accomplish. But Friday was a big day. And anyway, it made my weekend great. And thank you for bringing that back up again. I did owe you an explanation. God is great. He just works it all out for you. At the last minute possible, he works everything out.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that. Well, I just want, for everybody who is watching, I just want to know, I want you all to know how grateful I was when Joe told me that, because a lot of people don't see the burden that Joe carries and, you know, how hard he works to keep all this running and take care of a lot of people around him. So I want to say thank you to God for taking care of Joe a little bit on Friday. And only good things from here for what we're doing here.
It was pretty awesome. I was pretty excited. Pretty exciting stuff. For those of you that are listening and you're on Rumble, I'm just going to walk through the pleasantries. There's a little button over here. There's a thumbs up button. If you are on Rumble, just go over there, the little thumbs up, and hit the thumbs up button. If you are on Pilled, do the same thing. There's a little button that has, it's a little button that says agreed. Go ahead and hit that little agreed button to make a little burpee sound. If you're on X, go ahead and follow us at Joe Oltman, at Joe Untamed, and at Apollo. I think it's at Apollo. Make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
At Apollo Pappas.
That is it?
Yeah. APOLLOPAPAS. Pappas. Otherwise known as a pollo, a chicken. Buck, buck.
Only to some. Only to some.
All right, let's pray it out. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be together. Thank you for just this show. Thank you for the people that you've put in my life. And thank you for the people that we've been able to reach and affect by sharing truth. Father, we thank you for the trials that you've given us over the last 4 years. We thank you for Joe Biggs. We thank you for his heart, his tenacity, his courage, his ability to withstand 2 years in solitary confinement, his ability to stand up and never quit fighting, and his ability to recognize the devil that he's up against and still be patient enough to wait it out. Father, I do ask that you would protect Joe Biggs and the others that were charged with seditious conspiracy, Enrique Ontario, Stuart Rhodes, and a few others. I don't actually know the others. Joe Biggs, obviously. And I should, but I don't. But even the ones that remain nameless right now, Father, I just ask you would lift the burdens above them and to bless them financially so that they are not homeless and that they may meet the needs of their families. Father, I ask you to bless the President of the United States, Elon Musk, and all the others that are in offices to do good and do right by the American people. Father, first, I would just ask that you give them the ability to affect change. And secondly, that they may not have their hearts turned towards anything that would be selfish, and they may do right by the American people and may restore order, integrity, restore you to our very ways of life within our community and in our country and around the world. Father, we're still faced with a great amount of evil. We kind of see this as a reprieve, having President Trump in office, but you see the liars still lying. So, Father, I just ask you to give us the strength to stand up, to do our part, to still be a part of this great awakening, and to come to a place where we can fight back against this devil and push it back into the hole it came from. And Father, lastly, I just ask you that you will give us the patience and the courage and the wisdom to continue and to do what's right by you, and that we may grow and accomplish great things together, but that people may feel empowered to use their voice and speak truth in their own communities and with their people. I ask these things, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Well, I will see you, Apollo, tomorrow. I'll see all of you tomorrow. Yeah. And follow us on, if you want the audio version, you go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Please go and download the episode. Give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you think. I'd really like to hear it. And if you need to reach out to us because you have a story, you know how to find us. You can go to untamedjoe.com and just say, I want to connect with you. So God bless you. We'll see you soon. Be kind to each other.